Well, happy Sunday, y'all. This is the section of the show. I go ahead and I fire up a little early with my little screen up here to let all the notifications go out and say howdy to everybody, let everything get connected and settled in. And I listen for the clock in the other room to stop bong bong bonging, and that's when I push the magic button and we say, hey, y'all, happy Sunday. Hope everybody's having a good one. It's doing good here. Another cool-ish, not quite so rainy day in Southern Oregon. Just kind of chilling out and getting ready to go outside and do some more yard work. Happy Sunday to y'all. Thanks for joining me. And I'm glad to see so many faces out there. Boy, we got a bunch too. Let's see who all we got out here. We have Javi from Javi's Woodshop. How do you do? Good to see you out there from sunny Florida. Sunny, I'm sure. Let's see, Steve Nealon from Harneal Media, Mark Lindsay CNC.com, sponsored by Harneal Media. He's your man. If you want a website, a web store, sell some merchandise, there's a link to his website down in the description of this video. Check him out. He's the man, I'm here to tell you. Let's see, Ice Cream 62 checking in from Italy. How you doing today? Kurt Briegel. Jim Sinicola, Totally Wood Workshop. How you doing today? Let's see, Jeff Rozak, another Floridian. Hover 60 Crafter, you're killing me from the sunny island of Trinidad. Oh, times must be hard. Let's see, Terry Hurst, Stephen Main, Wendell Holland, how you doing today? From Apple Country Woodcrafters. Great name, I like that. Let's see, Thomas Grimm, David Roby from Papa Dave's Hobby Shop. That's cool too, actually. David Crook from Charlotte. Kevin Els from, are you ready for it? South Africa. Holy cow. If anybody would have told me 20 years ago I'd be chatting with somebody from South Africa, I'd be like, yeah, nah. When donkeys fly. Thankfully, they don't. Let's see, Mixmaster JT, Francisco Paz from Rio de Janeiro. Holy cow. Robert Ripine, Ayal Peleg from Israel. Wow. Gary Hammett, Dale Francis, Bob Hell to Bridle. Poster of all things rude, crude, socially unacceptable, also known as funny as heck. Let's see, Jim Hester in the house. Chuck Deskins. Michael McCrite. Let's see, Ashtonite Boy from England. Wow. Troy Barkhouse from Nova Scotia. Bobby Heskett. Portier 33 from Serbia. Wow. Don Sigurdsson in the house. Let's see, Ronald Ledger. Let's see, Dennis Mills, Mike Smith, Richard Poulin, Bill Deerhake from Houston. Boy, truly an international crowd. Well, welcome aboard, y'all, and thank you very much for hanging out with me here for a little bit of your Sunday. Basically, I'll go ahead and I'll bring up this week's video. There's a little bit of housekeeping to do beforehand. If you have sent me an email through the contact us page over at marklindsaycnc.com, just know that I'm slammed with emails. I will get to you. Some of them are just taking me a while to get to, but I will get to you. I have gone through and looked at them. I'm just now being able to respond to folks, but I will get you. Thank you for your patience with me. Yes, I look at all of them, every single email that comes in, the good, the bad, the indifferent, and I try to answer everybody. So thank you for your patience. And so on to this week's video. This is video number 1 on the project that I have been talking about for months now. A few eagle-eyed people out there in the crowd picked up on the fact that in the video I'm using Aspire, what is it, 10.018, and asked me, oh, did you go back? Did you downgrade? No, I didn't downgrade. That was the most current version when this video was shot. It was shot in November. So this is the project that I've been waiting for the weather to clear up to be able to paint. And I've got the shelf parts of it painted. I haven't done the corbels yet because it decided to start raining again. But since I have the first two videos finished and in the can, and I'm editing the third, I figure I'm close enough to being done that I feel safe in putting out videos. So that's why it looks older. I'm not using this microphone. I'm on the old headset that probably had that hum in the 50 hertz band. So this is finally getting it out there. So it was also supposed to be the introduction to guidelines, and I did a video after this was filmed and released it, and that included guidelines in it. So this was supposed to be the basic guideline video, and then I jumped ahead. Well, anyway, so if you notice some incongruity there, that's what's going on. So let's see. IL Peleg says, I learned a new English word from you today, corbel. Yeah, Corbel. It's some people use shelf bracket, some people use shelf standard. I was always taught it was corbel, and so that's what I've always done. So so and just to jump ahead a little bit, I did cut the parts. I've got them right here, and I haven't got to painting those yet. That's what I'm waiting on good weather for now, because I have to paint them and then bring them in and detail paint them. And I did cut it out of the 18 millimeter Baltic birch, and quickly discovered that even good quality Baltic birch doesn't VCarve worth a ding dong. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the centers of these lilies just chipped all to pieces. It didn't work out very well at all. So I ended up junking that idea and went with some poplar instead. And as much as I hate working with poplar, I have to say these really turned out nicely. I don't like working with poplar. It's stringy, it's soft, it shreds. It doesn't hold hardware worth the ding dong. It's just real soft. And I'm just not much for it at all. Well, I talked with Michael Tyler, and he gave me some tips and pointers on cutting poplar on the CNC. And boy, I tell you what, he was right on the money. It worked great. And if you don't know who Michael Tyler is, he is the gentleman who designs and uploads all the files for all of Vectric's free monthly projects through the V & Company website. And he's an absolute wizard with this software. And he gave me a few tips on cutting poplar. Basically, run the toolpath twice and use ridiculously slow feed rates. I mean, we're talking like 18 inches per minute. That's slow. And it worked like a champ. That is the cleanest I have ever seen poplar cut. And if that's what it takes, that's what I'll do if I have to use poplar again. But I don't look forward to it. I despise the stuff. So, okay, let's see. Jim Hester says, haven't gotten to watch the video yet, but it looks like it's going to be great for my sons who are just now learning VCarve. You know, having extra eyes and extra hands on the software, not to mention extra minds when it comes to creating new files, is a bonus, believe me. So let's see here. Kurt Briegel says, good video this morning. Thank you, Kurt. Is there a way to label or name the guidelines we add? I can see losing track of which is which if several or more get added during the design. I don't know if there's a way to label the guides. I don't think there is. But, that's a good question. I'm going to bring up to the folks at Vectric if the user group meeting is still on. Let's see. Label. I'm writing it down. Yeah. I can't wait for the Vectric user group meeting in San Diego. If it, fingers crossed, knock on wood, if it's still on this year, it should be. We'll see. Um, I've got a list of things I'm going to ask them about the software, some things that I would like to see them add to it. And a lot of this is pretty simple stuff, but I'm going with a list, believe me. But as far as I know, right now, there is no way to label the guides, but that's a good idea. Let's see. Richard says, it looks like you're as good in SketchUp as in VCarve. Not really. I'm not very good with SketchUp at all. I know just enough to make myself dangerous and get in trouble. But I taught myself how to use SketchUp. I think I've told this story before. I'm a big fan of the arts and crafts and mission style furniture. And years ago, my wife got me a book on from Gustav Stickley. It was plans for various pieces of furniture out of, I believe it was called the Craftsman magazine from like 1910, 1912, somewhere in that era. And this book was just a compilation of all the furniture plans and designs, or not all of them, but a bunch of them that he had published in that magazine. And I sat down with that book in my lap and I taught myself how to use SketchUp by drawing every piece of furniture in that book. And that was my introduction to it. I taught myself. I learned fairly well, but domes, dishes, and things like that still give me some problems. So, but thank you for that anyway, Richard. Let's see. How many passes with your machine to go across plywood? If you mean go through plywood, it depends on the bit. I mean, 1/4 inch bit going through 3/4 inch plywood. 6, somewhere in there. Yeah, that's about it. Let's see. IL Peleg, I learned my second English word from you today. Poplar. Yeah, poplar is, it's like it's one of the softest hardwoods out there. And hardwood being defined as a deciduous tree that drops its leaves every year, not an evergreen. Um, I don't like it. I mean, it's very inconsistent color wise. This is actually pretty decent poplar. Um, I've seen it everywhere from snow white to avocado green to I just fell off my tricycle bruise purple, all within the same 1.5 foot of material. It's inconsistent. It's soft. I don't like it. But let's see here. Thomas Grimm, could you put the guidelines in different layers? No, they not as far as I know, but I believe they set over the top of everything. You can shut layers on and off, or turn them on and turn them off, and I've never seen a guideline go away. So I don't think you can put the guides on different layers. So Steve Late, just now learning VCarve, thinking of pulling the trigger on VCarve desktop. Well, Steve, I got to tell you, I'm not an expert with any software, but I am an expert at attempting to learn how to use software. I was introduced to AutoCAD and the IBM PC in the same week of 1997. I no longer use AutoCAD, but I still use the PC. I've tried various different programs, and I never really learned AutoCAD all that well. I've tried various different programs for 3D modeling, for just simple V-carving. And I got to tell you, VCarve has probably got the gentlest learning curve I've ever experienced. And I'm living proof. If I can learn to do this stuff, anybody can. You literally can download the program, having never used it before, and be cutting your first project the same week. It's intuitive. Everything is laid out where you think it would be. There are a few little hidden goodies that you can only get to as far, by using menus or little keyboard shortcuts and things like that. But generally speaking, everything is icon or menu driven. So it's actually very good software, and I just don't have the problems I see other people having with like Carbide Create or Easel or something like that. I just don't have those problems. So let's see. Ayal Peleg wants to know, did you ever use Microsoft Visio? I don't think so. The guidelines there behave very differently in the sense that you can attach stuff to them and then move the guide moving the attached objects. I don't recall anything like that. I haven't gone through all the keyboard shortcuts yet when it comes to using guides. I do know you can lock the guides so they can't be dragged. You can't accidentally move one. You can lock individual guides in place. But other than that, I don't think you can lock it to any entity. So let's see. eCabinets Tips and Tricks joining in the crowd. How you doing today? Let's see. Richard Farwell, I understand that balsa is classified as a hardwood. It is. Hardwoods are, like I said, defined as they're deciduous trees that shed their leaves in the autumn or in the spring if you're in the summer, the southern hemisphere. Whereas softwoods are evergreens that don't shed leaves or needles as the seasons changed. So that's how I was taught. See, David Roby, Jay Bates has a very good section on SketchUp. Yes, he does. It is excellent. And he really gets into the nuts and bolts of the keyboard shortcut. But again, he's doing the same thing that I was doing with it and using it to draw furniture and draw projects. So there wasn't really the necessity for a lot of the more artsy, creative things you can do in SketchUp. Don't get me wrong, it's an excellent program. It just doesn't fit with what I'm doing with my CNC. And I know there are some plugins out there that will convert this, that, and the other. And but I just am teaching myself to 3D model in Aspire, and I taught myself how to draw in VCarve. And it's to the point to where even like my little Mustache Man logo, I drew that in VCarve, then exported it into a format I could load into my photo editing program and filled the colors in that way. It was easier for me to do, and I don't have any real graphics programs because I don't do that kind of thing. So, yeah, let's see here. Mike Smith, did you ever mention that you don't like poplar? I should do a blog post on it. I really should. Let's see. Steve Late, many thanks for that, Mark, and thank you for your videos. Well, thank you very much, Steve. I do appreciate it. This thing just kind of took off. I never expected to get as big as it has, and you guys are absolutely awesome. I'm just some guy in a shed doing this as a hobby, having fun with it. And if I can help somebody get going, then I'm happy to do it. My whole point in this nowadays is saw somebody on Facebook. I saw a few posts in a couple of CNC groups, and he was having real bad problems, real serious problems with his machine. And he got to the point to where he just basically um, loaded it up on a wheelbarrow, took it outside, and dumped it on his burn pile. He never torched it. He ended up trading it to somebody for a table saw. But just watching him get so frustrated because he thought he couldn't do this made me say that that's just not right. I mean, if I can do this, anybody can do this. So, just trying to help folks get used to this and realize that you can do it. It takes practice just like anything else. But if I can do it, anybody can do it. So, howdy, Grant. Welcome aboard. Let's see. Wendell Holland wants to know what snap parameters did I use in the video. Well, let's go over to Aspire, and I will show you that. Now, I didn't look this up beforehand, so I'm going to have to look at this and see. I believe, let's see, I'm looking for options here. Options down here below. So go to the edit menu and then go to snap options right here. And that'll bring up the options form right here. And I've got check marks in display text, at cursor, snap to guides, snap guides to geometry. And those are the important ones right there. Now, I have snap to grid unchecked. That is an option that you can do. And if I put a check mark there, you'll notice all these dots suddenly appear on my screen. That's a grid, and I have the grid spacing set at 1/4 of an inch. So all these dots are 1/4 inch apart in X and in Y. Now, to me, that clutters up the screen. I use it on occasion, but not very often at all. Then over here for geometry snapping and smart snapping, I have them all checked except for object bounds. Object bounds are, it's kind of difficult to describe. If you have an irregular shaped object out here, like a star, or, well, not even a star, just in a teardrop shape or something that's kind of bent, it will, if you have object bounds snapped, it will snap to the highest point or the widest point or the lowest point. It won't snap to the vector itself. It likes to jump. I'm not much for that, so I have that turned off. But I have everything else checked for smart snapping and geometry snapping. So, and my snapping radius I never touched. My fixed nudge radius is set to 1/8 of an inch. And my angle step is at 15 degrees. And that's my snapping setup. And all that simply means is if I were to draw a polyline here, you see how it snaps over to 15 degrees. It went to 75. And then I pull back this way, it snaps to 90. And I'll click there and then spacebar to accept that line. Well, now I can reference off of this end of this line, drag it straight over horizontally, click, and then I can just kind of hover over that for a second, drag straight over, and I've got 2 lines the same length. And that's what smart snapping helps to do. I can come down along this line here to the center point. Once I find the center point of that line, click off and go straight over. And there we go. So snapping just helps you reference off of points, go straight up, and what have you. It just helps you reference off of points. It looks for end points, especially, and midpoints. Now, if I close this, select all of these, type N to go into node editing, I can come up here and insert a point right there, type N to come out of node editing, go back into polyline. I can come down here, find that point, and reference off of it. So there's a lot of things that smart snapping will help with, but occasionally you want to turn smart snapping off if it's getting in the way. And you can do that just by going into snap options and shut it off here. And then you'll have to go back in and turn it back on again. So those are my snapping settings. I hope that answered your question. So get back over to the chat so I can see what's going on. There we go. Okay. Let's see, eCabinets tips and tricks. I agree with you on the learning curve for Vectric software. I just started experimenting with Fusion 360, which is much more confusing for me. Yeah, I do have Fusion 360. I got into it a little bit. I never really went forward with it, simply because the learning curve was very steep. I could follow it, but as it turns out, it's not the type of 3D that I want to draw and carve. Don't get me wrong, it's an excellent program. If you are designing parts for assemblies, it's really hard to beat. If you are doing mainly two-dimensional cuts, it's excellent. But if you're trying to do the more decorative form of 3D modeling, like galloping horses or some of the flourishes and finials we've all seen, while it can do it, it's not the easiest program in the world to get into. So I stuck with VCarve for 4.5 years and upgraded to Aspire last year, and I'm just getting into the 3D portion of it. So it's the Vectric is a heck of a lot easier to learn, but Fusion 360 is still an excellent program. It's just for what I do, it was like driving a thumbtack with a sledgehammer. It was just way more than I needed. So let's see here. Hello, mate. I have a question about screwball. I'm sure you mean ball screw. How you choose them? Because I have with a 1605 system, I can't find information what speed need to use or how to calculate it. Okay, I'm assuming you mean ball screws. I would check with your CNC. Are you building a CNC? If so, I would check with the manufacturers of your drivers, etc., to see what kind of micro-stepping you need or what have you. I don't know what control software you're using or anything like that. So I'm not going to be much help. I'm not a CNC expert. My main focus is to teach folks how to use Vectric software. Sorry. So, let's see. Wendell Holland, we use a lot of Baltic birch to make toys. Same problems on anything but straight cuts. Oh, it profiles, pockets, and drills beautifully. But it's a structural wood, to me anyway. It's for cabinets and casework and things like that. It's not for V-carving. Some folks can get a real good result out of plywood. I'm not much for it. But as much as I despise MDF, sometimes that's the best wood if you're going to do a painted job. I just couldn't bring myself to I just couldn't bring myself to cut that out of MDF. That's all. So I went with Poplar. So Dios says, "Hi, is there someone who know how to get the automatic tool changer screen on Mach 3? Your best bet would be to go over to the Mach support forums and ask your question over there. Folks like Jerry are absolute wizards with Mach 3 and can help you out just like that. I would head over to the Mach support forum. No worries. And I'm not trying to pronounce your name, Mr. Mikas, because I don't want to tear it apart. Your grammar is just fine. I just don't know your machine and I don't know your system. So I'd hate to guide you the wrong direction. So let's see. Richard says, my best work is out of maple wood. I love maple. I love to carve maple. Let's see, my go-tos are cherry, maple, birch, depending upon the availability. Believe it or not, birch is not that easy to find around here. It's fairly inexpensive, but I'm on the West Coast and it all gets shipped from back east. The only birch that gets grown out here is for the paper mills. And I love sapele and walnut, but they're expensive. If I had my choice, I would carve nothing but mahogany, sapele, walnut, and tiger wood all day long. I just don't have the wallet to support that. But walnut and sapele both machine like butter, and I really, really love it. But yeah, my go-tos are cherry and maple. If I want a little bit of color, or if I'm going to add a little bit of a stain, I'll go with cherry. If I'm going to do a natural finish, depending on what the project is, I'll go with maple. It just depends on the project. A lot of people, and I'm kind of an outcast for saying this, a lot of people have a real problem with painting wood. I have no problem doing it at all. It just depends on the project. If the project needs paint, it gets paint. I will choose my material accordingly. But if somebody wants something done in a nice bird's eye maple and there has to be some paint somewhere, it'll get paint. If somebody wants something cut out of sapele and something on it needs to be painted, it'll get paint. That's just the way it is. It's whatever the project needs. So, and that's just me. I know, I'm an outcast. I also am the guy that doesn't mind sanding, so what can I say? Alrighty, well, we've been here for about a half an hour. Are there any more questions on today's video? Again, next week, part 2 of this, where I took what we drew up in today's video, copy it, calculate all the tool paths, and because so many people were requesting it at the time, I'm also showing how I save G-code. I save it to my computer. I don't save it to a thumb drive, but all that is navigation. You would navigate to a thumb drive, save the G-code, and then from there we go outside on the video following that one and we'll cut it out. How do you write sapele? Very close, all. It is S-A-P-E-L-E. Some people call it African mahogany, but I've seen another species of wood called African mahogany. So I tend to not call it African mahogany. I call it sapele, but it's S-A-P. Let me write it in the chat here. S-A-P-E-L-E. And that'll show you how long the lag is. Let's see. Dwayne Ruthig. Mark, I was talking to you for a while until I realized you were showing the right corbel in SketchUp and the left end in Aspire. You know, You're not the first one to bring that up. Now, somebody else called me out on that, and I really didn't think anything of it. I mean, I should have. I guess I could have flipped it around, but I didn't notice it until I was editing the video, and then I thought, nah, I don't want to reshoot that. It's no big deal. But it's all the same. I mean, it'll work. But yeah, you were not the first person to call me out on that, Dwayne. Alrighty. Thank you for all the well wishes. Linda and I are doing great here. We haven't changed our lifestyle a whole heck of a lot. We were homebodies, and we haven't changed much at all. So, alrighty, I'm going to go ahead and end this one now. Okay, I see Tim Halcomb here says, what type of computer system should I be looking for as far as the storage on it to run VCarve Pro? You don't have to have a heck of a lot of computer to run VCarve. It's pretty. You should have a decent amount of RAM. I'm using a big gaming computer here. I got 16 gigs of RAM, but it doesn't need it for VCarve or Aspire. I basically got this because of the rendering for video. And I got a big graphics card in it that Aspire doesn't take advantage of because of the threading, how the program works, and all this other good technical stuff. You don't need a lot of computer. The minimum computer system requirements are on the website, on the Vectric website. As far as storage is concerned, get an external, 1-2 terabyte hard drive, be it a SSD or a spinner, either one, and just however much storage you think you need, because you will collect files. I'm here to tell you. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this a good one. I will see you all next week. And go out and do something cool, man. Go make some chips. Have a good one, y'all. Thanks for spending some Sunday with me.